now time to sit down with our roundtable for a distinguished panel of South Florida journalists and political activists and attorneys to weigh in on the news of the week. Introductions first.
We have got a great group for you this morning. Let's tell you who is here. That is Jacqueline Charles, our friend Jackie Charles, reporter with the Miami Herald, covers the Caribbean. Saman Mosavagi, if I'm mispronouncing that, I apologize. Gonzalez is founder and managing attorney at the Florida Immigration Law Council, and Jay Narang, business executive in Broward County. He sits on the executive committee of the Republican Party of Florida.
Good morning.
Great
Ms.
to have you.
Mobasagi.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Well, we are talking about the big topic of the week, the showdown, the shutdown in its second day over essentially DACA. Jackie Charles, you cover the Caribbean. You've been heavily involved in the coverage of TPS, temporary protected status for different groups. And I think it's worth a conversation about how DACA and other immigration issues like TPS are very different issues, are they not?
They are very different issues in terms of passing immigration reform. What I find to be so interesting about this current debate is that General Kelly, when he was in charge of DHS, he called for a legislative fix on the TPS issue. There are other calls from members of Congress for a legislative fix when it came to DACA. Here we are today. There's a discussion on the table about DACA, and legislators want to provide that fix, but a lot of it is getting lost in the rhetoric and also in the blame game.
Yeah. Well, Saman, it's pretty obvious in South Florida, and Jay, hold on, we're going to get to government shutdown in a minute. But I think that the issue of DACA and TPS has been conflated. I mean, we saw a march this week, Tuesday night, downtown Miami, hundreds of people who are both TPS beneficiaries, recipients, and DACA kids were out there, but in fact, they're separate issues, pretty much, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, yeah, they're completely separate. I mean, TPS is temporary protected status for individuals from countries that have suffered major
Salvador,
Haiti. And Haiti earthquakes. They've suffered disasters, whereas the DACA are children who have been brought into the United States under the age of 16, who have either completed high school or in the process of completing school. And both programs, you have to, there's a vetting process for both of them. These aren't criminals that are going around getting work permits, and these are people who have gone through background check, name check. They have, they can't have a conviction of a felony, and they're given an opportunity to stay in this country and work and be part of the fabric of the United States. And here we are in a position where the government is saying, no, we don't want to talk about it right now. We're going to talk about something else. But this has been the platform the whole time, and now we're here, and it's crumbling in front of us.
But that's something new. I mean, this is something that's been going on for the longest time. The DACA kids are the piñata that Democrats have used every time and delivers candy every time. I mean, in 2008, when they had the full majority and President Obama was the president, they had the opportunity to fix that, but they did not do anything until 2012 when they go in, then there's the executive order, and now again, because Trump administration is doing so well and it was their first year anniversary, all they did was again went back to that piñata and they beat it up and tried to deliver some more candy out of that.
Well, can I just say that there were, as recently as a week ago when we talked about it on this program last Sunday, there was a deal. There was a reachable compromise that kind of blew up for reasons that I'm not sure any of us still understand. But it is a bipartisan effort here.
Exactly, and despite that deal, when they did not have full agreement on things, because what President Trump is looking for and what the Republicans are looking for is a comprehensive reform of the immigration issue. Because what happens with the DACA kids, okay, we fix that and we give them a pathway to legalization. What's next with the 62,000 kids that came in last year? Or the other 20 or 30 or 40,000 kids that come in this year. So the problem is that there needs to be a comprehensive reform, and that's what's...
All right, well, but Congress has failed, as you all know, has failed for years to deal with comprehensive reform. Senator Rubio, part of his kind of reluctance to get too close to this very hot issue is that he got burned on it once before when he was part of the Gang of Eight. Jay, I really think that part, and what the Dreamers earlier were saying, and Professor Gomez, is that the president has been all over the place on Dreamers. He said, we love these kids, we're going to take care of the Dreamers, and then suddenly at that meeting where Senators Graham and Durbin showed up at the White House January 12th, believing that they had a deal in front of them, that's when the whole thing just, went down the tubes.
And that's because the president is looking for a comprehensive reform, not to keep going
Is it
back to
comprehensive
this
reform, or
particular-
he wants to cherry pick?
No.
Because
He's
some of the things
looking-
he's talked about is the border wall, cutting off family reunification. That's not comprehensive immigration reform.
Well,
that's just cherry picking a few issues that are touchstone issues that you want to deal with.
You call it cutting off family reunion issue, but really it's chain migration. That's what that. Shutdown. It is not because of any of those issues, because in the CR that came to the Senate from the House,
continuing resolution for the budget,
it did not have anything to do with DACA. It did not have anything to do with any of these issues. All it had was the budget, and number two was CHIP, the child health care insurance program for the kids. So what is more important? And that's the thing that the president is looking at. He's, he's saying that unless you fix it, and as anybody in business or any other field, you're going to look at your boat sticking on water. You want to fix the leak first, as opposed to just kind of going in there and creating buckets to keep that water everywhere.
Simon, I think, to say the obvious about the politics of this, the Democrats see that they finally have some leverage.
Yes.
The president's approval rating right now is 36%, lowest of any president at the end of a first year. So despite your assertion, Jay, that he's been doing great, and there have been some good things. I mean, the economy's going crazy. Wall Street is in great shape. Other things, I agree. But the Democrats see a chance to finally get DACA passed, and they are using this as a wedge issue. I mean, whether you like it or not, that is simply how politics works.
Yeah, and this is what they're facing right now, and I think that they should take that opportunity to try to get this issue resolved. I mean, we've been talking about immigration and DACA for the past year and even way before it, and now they're in a position, like you said, where they do have the leverage to go ahead and get something. And we're not talking about, we're talking about children who already have status in this country. They're not illegal immigrants here.
No, they are. They're illegal
No, they're not
aliens.
illegal immigrants.
No, they are illegal aliens, but because they have been granted the deferred action, as a result, they have legal status.
That's not a
In
fair
reality,
statement at all.
Their grievance is not with the Congress or the American citizens.
I think you bring up what is the essential question here, is that they are technically undocumented, yet for no reason of their own, and as a humanitarian gesture, there is a difference between their situation and someone who has chosen to come illegally.
True,
That's sort of
this is why they are
But their gripe
DACA.
is not with the United States Congress or with the United States citizens. Their gripe is with their parents who brought them here illegally. Their gripe is with the countries
But the
that do not have
president
the
and his
democracies
staff
that can
said,
support.
give us a legislative fix. And today we have the opportunity to do that. And instead, it's getting lost in the rhetoric of the blame game.
Exactly.
Because you keep changing the goalposts.
And the Schumer shutdown is
Or Schumer says negotiating with the president is like negotiating with Jell-O. It's impossible.
Well, it's politics. Welcome to midterm 2018.
Jay, can I ask you a personal question?
Yes.
You were born not in the United States.
Yes, sir. I'm a legal immigrant to this
All right,
country.
and so you got in line. You followed the absolute procedures one must follow to become, get a visa to come to the United States, and you became a naturalized citizen.
And I'm proud of this. This is not, it's kind of like winning the lottery, and that's one thing that people need to understand.
So, good for you for following the process, but, you look at these two young people who were sitting
what did you say?
here.
I said he wants to get rid of the lottery also, the president.
All right, so you look at these two outstanding, this young man, this young woman who were just here. And, they've been raised since the age of 3 and 5.
Agreed.
They are as American as anybody else.
I agree.
Why shouldn't they be allowed to stay?
They should definitely be allowed to stay, and that's not what I'm saying. That's not what the president is saying. What he's saying is comprehensive reform, so that there's no more kids that are placed into this same situation over and over again.
I don't mean to make this you and me here, but on January 9th, the president met at the White House with a whole group of congressmen and allowed TV cameras into that meeting. And at some point in the meeting, he said, bring me an immigration deal. Any deal protects DACA. I will sign it, even if I don't like it very much. What happened to that president?
Negotiation. That's what it is. He wants to make sure that there's comprehensive reform. He wants to make sure that the holes that are in our immigration system are plugged. That's what he's looking for, and that's not what he's getting at his desk.
Time to take a break. We'll continue this, promise, in a couple of minutes. Stay with us.
Back on this Sunday morning live in our studio, a very robust roundtable. And Jackie Charles, let me ask you, as you well know, TPS for Haitians who came here post the earthquake, there are roughly 58,000 of them, and they have been told that TPS has been taken off the table. They must go back. July 2019 is the date for them to go back. But I was talking this week with a number of Haitian leaders and Haitian American leaders who are pleading that it be extended, and as much as your heart goes out to them, I think that's a very faint possibility.
I agree with you. I mean, I feel that it's a very faint possibility, especially when we've seen what has happened in the last couple of weeks, and especially in terms of the alleged comments that were made in a meeting in which the issue of TPS for Haitians and El Salvadorans was brought up. But
and
yes,
the president made his vulgar comments
Yes.
reportedly. Why do we need more Haitians? Take them out, was the quote from Dick Durbin.
Yes. And so when you think about that sort of thinking, and then after that, we had the decision on the H-2A and H-2B visas in regards to Haiti.
Explain
so
what that
these are seasonal visas that are given to people in Haiti to come and work on farms or to come and work in your resorts. Trump, for instance, he has a number of employees who are under H-2B visas. They are not American citizens. They don't live in the United States. They live in foreign countries, and they are actually requested by business owners in the United States. This has been going on for decades. They come in, they work for a couple of months, earn income, and then they go back to their countries. So Haiti qualified, well, was reinstated after the earthquake as a means to assist Haitians, especially farmers. And we have 65 individuals who are there. They've been there since 2012. But the Department of Homeland Security, working with the Department of State, decided this week that they are no longer going to allow Haiti to apply for those visas. So a lot of people...
And the reason, excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
But the reason, Saman, is that DHS, Homeland Security, said they overstay these visas. They get here to work for 3 or 4 months, pick apples in Washington or crops in another state or do some kind of labor. They send the money back, a lot of money for Haiti. But DHS says they overstay the visa and therefore they're not reliable to be recipients of these guest worker visas.
Right, so there's a whole list of countries actually that are allowed to be on these, allowed to obtain these visas. And there's people from all of these different countries that also have those issues where they'll overstay or they'll marry or they'll continue to stay in the United States. But there's a big majority of them too that will return back to their country because they know that this is a mechanism for them to come back to the U.S. and work on that visa and then return back. And they're allowed to stay here for 9 to 10 months at a time, and then they go back and then they have the same employer apply for them again. It's kind of like it's the seasonal peak load worker.
One of the things I believe, according to DHS, was that program, H2A and H2B, is primarily managed, the processing part, by the home country. And for example, Jamaica has a robust program, and that works really well. However, with Haiti, the management has not been that effective. That's one of the statements from, or one of the things that I believe DHS is kind of making.
Well, I spoke to an economist who actually studied that program, and he highlights the fact that the original group that was put into that program, they are still there and they have gone back, and that part has been managed effectively. And there's been questions about DHS statistics on the number of Haitians who actually overstay. So I think with this issue, it was the timing.
And I agree with you that the violations, as you were saying earlier when we were sitting in the conference room there, is that there's not been any kind of violation with those 65. However, that is not such a vast program just yet. And that might be a legal way to bring in Haitians that want to be here and then send them back as needed, as you were explaining the H2A and H2B.
Right. You know, the larger issue, if I may, of the economy in South Florida is that not only people who have been living under temporary protected status, but also a lot of the dreamers who are working. The Miami-Dade School Union says there are some 20,000 teachers in schools who are DACA recipients. The hotel industry employs
Construction.
construction, a large,
Healthcare.
significant percentage of people who are here on temporary protected status who have been here for decades. So temporary is sort of a
And they
loose
have
word.
children who
What-
were born in this country and are now American
So on
citizens.
the economy, though, that's a humanitarian part, but South Florida economy being what it is, Saman, what happens when all these workers disappear?
Well, that's a good question. I have a lot of clients who come in who talk to me all the time. Their TPS is going to be expiring soon, or their DACA is going to be expiring, and what are they going to do? Yet they're not married to a United States citizen to have that petition in order to continue to stay in the United States, but they have other ties here. They work, they pay their taxes, or they have children here, and they're not in a situation where they can return back to their country. I mean, they've been here for so long.
But specifically for the people who are running businesses here, and corporations,
to
what
answer
happens?
the economic aspect, I think what's going to happen is that the wages are going to go up. We were talking about it earlier, that the issue is that American workers don't want to take those jobs.
Yes.
They're mostly minimum wage jobs.
Right.
So what's going to happen is that the businesses will have to go with
Is that a guess, or is there some kind of empirical evidence that shows that will happen?
No, that's just an educated guess based on how the business functions.
So that
right? I mean,
businesses have
if there's a
preventing
need-
the minimum wage from going up because immigrants have been in those jobs. That doesn't seem to be very logical. I think that
no,
businesses
I did
don't
not
want
say
the
minimum wage. I did not say minimum wage. I said that you guys mentioned earlier that most of these jobs that are the H2A and H2B, they are taking minimum wage jobs. So what I'm saying is the wages are kind of low for those individuals, and that's probably why the American worker is not taking those jobs.
If we can,
so the wage goes up.
We have only about 45 seconds left, but I do want to say another big story, and I'm sorry to give it short shrift, but this week it appeared from testimony before a congressional committee that maybe Florida is not off the table when it comes to oil drilling. I asked the governor this week. He says now Secretary of the Interior Zinke's going to keep his word. Do you think, Jay, that in fact, who Zinke told the governor, Governor Scott, it is off the table? Are you willing to accept that it is?
Well, there's some more evidence. Heather Swift, the spokesperson for Department of Interior, she made a statement as well that Walter Crankshift. I just butchered the guy's name.
It's harder than Mova
Yeah, so he made the statement that they still need to complete the analysis.
Right.
So it's probably the analysis that they need to finish before they take Florida off the table. And I think I would accept the statements made by Secretary Zinke and
okay,
the
we're
on record.
Perhaps.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you all. Great roundtable.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, the opening of Brightline train service was marred by deaths on the